There's a quiet kind of power that doesn't need to announce itself. It doesn't shout. It doesn't fight for the spotlight. It simply exists, steady, deliberate, and unbothered. For many men, strength is often measured by the obvious: broad shoulders, a loud voice, or a commanding presence in a room. But Sigma males embody something different. Their presence alone can shift the atmosphere, not because they try, but because they don't. This is where the paradox lies. Sigma males rarely see themselves as intimidating. They aren't chasing validation or trying to prove a point. They're simply living in alignment with their own values. Yet without realizing it, their independence, their silence, and their refusal to bend to the expectations of others often unsettles people more than aggression ever could. Think about it. A man who doesn't need approval is harder to control. A man who doesn't chase attention is harder to understand. And a man who carries himself with quiet certainty is harder to ignore. That kind of energy can be deeply intimidating, even when the Sigma isn't trying to be. What's fascinating is that most Sigma males underestimate this effect. They assume they're simply being themselves, keeping to their own lane and minding their business. But in reality, the way they carry themselves makes others second-guess, hesitate, and sometimes even feel insecure. In this video, we'll take a calm, thoughtful look at 6 subtle but powerful signs that a Sigma male is far more intimidating than he realizes. As we go through each sign, you may recognize qualities in yourself or in someone you know that highlight just how much influence quiet confidence can truly have. Let's begin. Number 1, his silence speaks louder than words. Silence is often underestimated, but for the Sigma male, it is one of the most powerful tools in his arsenal. People live in a world saturated with sound, constant chatter, notifications, background music, and endless explanations. Our brains have become conditioned to expect noise, and when that noise disappears, it can feel unsettling. This is why the Sigma's choice to remain quiet carries such weight. His silence is not emptiness, it is presence. It leaves a gap that others instinctively rush to fill, often exposing their own insecurities in the process. What seems like nothing more than restraint is, in reality, a subtle form of influence. Psychologists have long studied the effects of silence in human interaction. Research shows that when a pause lasts more than 4 seconds in conversation, people start to feel discomfort. They interpret the silence as judgment, disagreement, or disapproval, even if none of those feelings exist. This is why negotiations, interrogations, and even therapy sessions use silence as a tool. It encourages the other person to speak more, to reveal hidden thoughts, or to justify themselves unnecessarily. The Sigma male, who is naturally comfortable with quiet, wields this effect without even trying. His lack of words becomes a mirror, reflecting back the anxieties and assumptions of those around him. History offers countless examples of leaders and thinkers who understood this power. Abraham Lincoln was famous for his pauses, often letting silence stretch until his opponent filled it with rambling. In Japanese culture, the concept of ma, the space between sounds, teaches that silence can carry as much meaning as words. Even in modern business, the most effective negotiators know that the person who talks less usually gains more. The Sigma embodies this wisdom instinctively, standing apart from the noise of the crowd. For many people, this quiet presence is intimidating. It breaks the script of social interaction. When someone doesn't offer reassurance, small talk, or immediate responses, others are left to confront their own thoughts. They may wonder, what is he thinking? Does he disapprove of me? Did I say something wrong? In reality, the Sigma is simply comfortable with his own space. He doesn't feel the need to fill silence with meaningless words, and that independence unsettles those who rely on constant validation. His stillness communicates strength, not the loud, boastful kind, but the kind that holds steady even when everything else demands attention. Silence in his hands becomes both shield and weapon, a reminder that sometimes the most powerful statement is the one left unsaid. Number 2, he doesn't seek validation. Most men measure their value through acknowledgement, titles, wealth, or recognition from others. Society has long reinforced this idea, from ancient warriors whose worth was tied to their victories to modern professionals who chase promotions and public praise. But the Sigma male breaks away from this pattern entirely. His sense of worth is not built on applause or approval. Instead, it is quietly rooted in his independence, his discipline, and his ability to remain unshaken by outside opinions. This detachment often confuses people. They are used to measuring influence by how loudly someone demands attention, not by how calmly someone ignores it. And that is precisely why the Sigma's presence feels intimidating, even when he doesn't try. Psychologists often highlight that human beings are wired for social validation. Studies show that positive reinforcement, such as praise, activates the brain's reward centers much like food or money. This explains why so many people naturally seek acknowledgement. It feels good. Yet when someone operates outside of this cycle, as the Sigma male does, it creates a sort of social paradox. He doesn't need the dopamine rush of being applauded, and that self-sufficiency unsettles those who rely heavily on external approval. It's not arrogance, but a deep comfort with solitude and self-definition that makes others second-guess him. History gives us examples of men who embodied this same energy. Think of philosophers like Marcus Aurelius, who wrote in his that a man's worth is found within, not in the opinions of others. Or consider figures like Nikola Tesla, who quietly worked in isolation, often disregarding fame or recognition, yet left behind innovations that still shape the world today. These men didn't shout their significance, yet their silent strength carried weight across generations. The Sigma male reflects this archetype in modern form. A man whose very refusal to be defined by others becomes a source of influence. Socially, this can be disarming. In a world where people often perform to be seen, someone who remains grounded and indifferent stands out like a riddle that can't be solved. Others may label him as mysterious, difficult, or even cold. But what they are really sensing is the discomfort of facing someone who cannot be manipulated by flattery or shame. His value system doesn't run on the fuel of external validation, and that makes him unpredictable. In truth, the Sigma's calm detachment is not just a shield, it's a quiet form of power, and it's that very power, invisible yet undeniable, that leaves such a lasting impression. Number 3. He walks away without drama. When others get caught in conflict, they often feel the need to win, whether through arguments, shouting, or attempts at control. But the Sigma male approaches these moments differently. Instead of engaging in the emotional tug-of-war, he quietly withdraws. This act of stepping back may appear passive on the surface, but in reality, it is one of the most powerful responses he can choose. Walking away without a word or a flare of anger leaves the other person without the reaction they were seeking. And that absence of drama can feel more unsettling than any heated confrontation. Psychologists have long studied the dynamics of conflict, and research consistently shows that when emotions escalate, rational thought tends to decline. The prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for logical decision-making, can be hijacked by the amygdala, which triggers fight or flight responses. This is why people often regret the things they say in the heat of an argument. The Sigma's choice to withdraw is not cowardice, it is a demonstration of emotional discipline. By refusing to give control of his actions to anger, he preserves his energy and maintains clarity. In essence, he steps outside the cycle of provocation, denying others the satisfaction of pulling him into chaos. History and philosophy echo this wisdom. Stoic philosophers like Epictetus advised that no man is free who is not master of himself. By removing himself from conflict rather than reacting impulsively, the Sigma embodies this ancient principle of self-mastery. Even in modern professional environments, conflict management experts note that disengagement is sometimes the most effective way to de-escalate tensions and protect one's mental health. Leaders who remain calm under pressure are remembered not for the noise they make, but for their composure. What unsettles others most about the Sigma's calm withdrawal is the silence it leaves behind. In a world conditioned to equate strength with volume, his refusal to engage feels mysterious, even intimidating. People expect to provoke a response, but when none comes, they are left questioning their own position. Did he walk away because he doesn't care, or because he has already won by not playing the game? That ambiguity is where the Sigma's quiet power lies. His clean break speaks louder than any argument, reminding those around him that true strength is not in domination, but in control. Number 4. His standards are uncompromising. Whether in friendships, work, or relationships, a Sigma male quietly upholds high standards. He doesn't lower them to fit in, and he doesn't explain them away. This unshakable consistency often makes others feel judged, even when he hasn't said a word. It's not arrogance, and it's not about trying to prove superiority. Instead, it reflects a deeper principle. The Sigma male lives by values that are non-negotiable. These values often revolve around independence, integrity, and authenticity, qualities that research in personality psychology has linked with higher self-esteem and stronger boundaries. Unlike people who bend themselves to match social expectations, a Sigma doesn't compromise what matters most to him. This quiet adherence to standards can unsettle those around him. In the workplace, for example, employees may conform to a culture of shortcuts or half-hearted effort. When a Sigma male refuses to do the same, others might interpret his behavior as silent criticism. Interestingly, studies on workplace psychology show that individuals who maintain consistent ethical standards often become moral reminders to their peers, unintentionally highlighting others' compromises. This explains why even silence can be intimidating. His actions speak louder than lectures ever could. In relationships, the same principle applies. A Sigma male doesn't chase validation or bend his identity to keep someone's attention. He knows that genuine respect and connection come from being authentic, not from lowering his boundaries. Sociological research on attraction suggests that people with clear self-concepts are often perceived as more confident and desirable, even if that confidence isn't verbally expressed. But for some, this can feel like a mirror reflecting their own insecurities. When someone is unsure of who they are, being around a man who knows himself can feel unsettling. Friendships, too, are filtered through this quiet consistency. A Sigma won't surround himself with those who exploit his loyalty or drain his energy. Instead, he invests in connections built on mutual respect. Psychologists refer to this as selective social investment, choosing fewer but deeper relationships, a trait that has been found to improve long-term well-being. But to outsiders, it can look like coldness or detachment, when in reality it's about quality over quantity. Ultimately, the Sigma male's refusal to lower his standards is both his shield and his magnet. It protects him from environments and relationships that don't align with his values, and it naturally draws those who resonate with his way of living. What makes this so fascinating is that he rarely intends to intimidate anyone. Yet his quiet strength, his unshakable consistency, and his unwillingness to compromise often reveal unspoken truths about others. That's the paradox of the Sigma male. His silence speaks, and his presence alone can challenge the world around him. Number 5, he's comfortable alone. Most people grow uneasy when faced with solitude. Silence and separation often feel like voids that need to be filled with chatter, companionship, or constant validation. Yet for Sigma males, solitude is not a void but a sanctuary. Their ability to embrace being alone, sometimes even preferring it over social interaction, sets them apart in ways that can appear unsettling to others. In a world where approval and attention are often currency, their self-reliance feels almost unearthly, as though they're operating on a different wavelength altogether. This isn't to say they dislike people, rather their independence means their sense of worth isn't tethered to others' presence or praise. Psychologists have long studied the effects of solitude, and research shows that spending time alone can increase creativity, improve concentration, and enhance emotional regulation. For most, however, too much isolation can feel suffocating, even threatening. Humans are inherently social creatures. Our ancestors survived in groups, relying on cooperation for food, shelter, and protection. That evolutionary wiring is still with us, making the Sigma's comfort in solitude appear strange, like swimming against the tide of human instinct. Yet solitude doesn't drain Sigmas, it recharges them. This is partly why many historical innovators and thinkers, from Nikola Tesla to Isaac Newton, were known to withdraw from society for long stretches of time, using the quiet to fuel groundbreaking discoveries. For Sigma males, solitude is not loneliness, it is freedom. They see it as a space to reflect, refine, and reset. In a noisy culture dominated by social media, public opinion, and the constant pull of external validation, choosing solitude looks rebellious. It can even provoke discomfort in others. Imagine a group of friends who always feel the need to go out together. When one person declines, content with staying home to read or work on a personal project, it challenges the group's unspoken need for collective approval. This simple act of being comfortable alone disrupts the rhythm of dependency, making the independent person seem mysterious. even intimidating. There's also a practical edge to this solitude. Studies show that people who spend regular time alone often display stronger problem-solving skills and higher resilience in the face of challenges. Without leaning on a crowd to make decisions, Sigma males develop clarity and decisiveness. Their independence becomes a kind of silent power, an inner compass that does not waver with every passing trend or opinion. This steadiness unnerves those who rely on group consensus for direction, making the Sigma's independence appear not just unusual but formidable. In essence, solitude is the Sigma male's natural habitat. Where others see emptiness, they see possibility. Where others seek comfort in numbers, they find strength in the self. This profound independence may appear alien to those bound to the constant presence of others, but it is precisely what allows Sigmas to remain centered, self-sufficient, and quietly powerful. Their solitude is not a rejection of humanity, it is a mastery of it. By standing firm in silence, they remind the world that true strength doesn't always roar. Sometimes it simply rests in stillness. Number 6, his focus is unwavering. While many people drift with the tides of trends, gossip, and outside expectations, Sigma males chart a different course. Their strength lies not in how loudly they project themselves, but in how quietly they move through the noise of the world. This stillness, in a society that thrives on constant chatter and attention-seeking, immediately makes them stand out. People are often unsettled by what they cannot easily categorize, and the Sigma male's refusal to conform to predictable patterns sparks both curiosity and unease. His quietness is not emptiness, it is discipline, and discipline is rare enough to be seen as a form of power. Psychologists often note that humans instinctively react to confidence even when it is unspoken. According to social perception studies, individuals who remain calm and composed under pressure are often viewed as more competent and dominant, regardless of their actual status. Sigma males embody this effect naturally. Their calm detachment gives them an air of mystery, and mystery is one of the oldest tools of influence. In history, leaders like Marcus Aurelius or even modern figures like Steve Jobs commanded respect not only by what they said, but also by the weight of their silence and presence. Silence, when used intentionally, forces others to lean in. It turns absence into authority. Another reason Sigma males appear intimidating is the psychological principle known as the scarcity effect. When something or someone is less available, it automatically feels more valuable. In a world where people overshare, chase validation, and compete for attention, the Sigma male does the opposite. His withdrawal makes him scarce, and scarcity magnifies his perceived worth. Research in behavioral economics confirms this. People attribute higher status to individuals who appear self-sufficient and difficult to access. This creates an aura of superiority without a single word spoken. Cultural narratives also reinforce this perception. Movies and literature often present the mysterious loner archetype as powerful, the silent cowboy, the wandering samurai, or the detective who solves problems by thinking deeply rather than talking excessively. These characters resonate with audiences because they represent independence in a world that often demands conformity. Sigma males, in real life, reflect this archetype, and it unsettles those who measure themselves by group approval. Interestingly, intimidation doesn't always come from aggressive action. It often comes from what people project onto the unknown. When others cannot read a Sigma male, cannot predict his thoughts or reactions, they fill in the blanks themselves, usually with exaggerated assumptions of power or danger. This psychological phenomenon, called projection bias, means that the Sigma's silence is not neutral. It becomes a mirror for others' insecurities. In essence, Sigma males are intimidating not because they try to be, but because their way of life challenges the ordinary. Their stillness is resistance in a chaotic world. Their detachment is proof of inner strength, and their mystery is a quiet reminder that true power doesn't need to announce itself. It simply exists, and in that existence, it unsettles, inspires, and commands respect. A Sigma male rarely realizes the depth of his influence. What feels normal to him, silence, detachment, or independence, appears as strength to others. This contrast is where the mystery begins. Psychologists have long noted that humans instinctively equate calmness with control, and authority. In fact, research in social psychology shows that people who speak less in group settings are often perceived as more powerful, even when their actual influence is minimal. For the Sigma male, this silence isn't a tactic, it's simply his natural state. Yet to others, it feels like an unshakable confidence. Detachment adds another layer. While many men seek validation through attention or approval, the Sigma thrives on autonomy. In evolutionary psychology, independence signals self-sufficiency, a trait historically linked to survival and leadership. Without meaning to, the Sigma projects an aura of dominance by simply existing outside the need for external affirmation. And then there's his quiet confidence, not displayed in bravado, but in a steady, almost unbothered demeanor. In a world addicted to noise and constant display, such stillness can be unsettling. It forces others to measure themselves against someone who doesn't compete for the spotlight, which can feel intimidating. The Sigma may think he's just minding his own business, but others see a man who doesn't bend, doesn't chase, and doesn't need, making his presence feel like a mirror that exposes their insecurities. Ironically, the Sigma is least aware of this power, and that's what makes it all the more profound.